You can do it right now. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Cubist. My name is Bill Corey. I'm the Cubist, and it's Reiner Knizia Appreciation Night. I don't know. Is that? I tried for a pun in the show title like I usually do, and I think I'm the only one that got the pun, so that made me a little bit sad, but that's all right. All right. We are joined tonight by Mr. Chris Ray. Hi, Chris. Welcome back, sir.
Happy to be here.
Yes, happy to have you. And, of course, Brandon Kemp is here. Hi, Brandon.
Hello. How are you, Bill?
I am well. I'm sad that you do not have your glow-in-the-dark ear headphones on. I don't know why, but for some reason, I was thinking that you were going to have those.
If they would make you happy, I can try to get Annabeth to bring them to me.
No, it'll probably be okay. I'm already happy. I'm here with you, too. You guys are great. All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, it's Knizia night. We're going to talk all about the good doctor, Reiner Knizia, and his contributions to the hobby over the span of the next hour. But first, we are going to talk about stuff we have been playing lately, like we always do with our first segment. Chris, why don't you go first? You played, I think, probably the big hotness of the week, right?
So I played 1 week Ultimate Werewolf. I've been playing that a lot lately. News of that game was embargoed until this morning, although I think word got out early. And it's a fun game. It's a fun twist on One Night Ultimate Werewolf. You play over the course of 7 nights, which is why, or sorry, 5 nights, which is why it's called 1 week Ultimate Werewolf. And it's sort of a mashup. It's sort of a mashup of social deduction, but in this game you can switch your role. So it's pretty cool. It's coming to Kickstarter next week, and it should be out around Essen.
So I'm looking at the pictures of it on BGG right now. Because it does have an entry on BGG, so much for that embargo. That's fun. Are the do you know if those are like what they're going to be aiming for the pieces? These big like cup-looking things?
Yeah, so they hold your token because you're going to be moving around a castle. It's actually themed where you are sitting in the castle of Mad King Ludwig, which is pretty cool. So it's a mixing of the IP, and yeah, the pieces look like this one. So this is a 3D printed one, but I think the final ones will probably be wood.
Okay.
And it's a cool game. I love Ted Alspach's designs because he adds a lot of variability into what he does with everything he does. He did that with Suburbia, Castles of Mad King Ludwig, and all his werewolf games. And this is no exception to that.
Very cool. I am intrigued by how many different ways the basic idea of werewolf has been changed in order to make it, to meet the different needs, right? Because the original game Werewolf is this big, even with a lower player count, still a fairly sprawling kind of game experience, right? Like it's gonna be a little bit long, and it's all about people sitting around and talking for long periods of time. And now, he did One Night Ultimate, and then he, and it just feels like he's where Words really is playing with it, and now he's playing with it and turning it into a straight up board game. And he did with the other one too. What was the other one? Inquisition, right? Wasn't that another one that was sort of?
Yeah, I don't think Ted designed that one, but he published it. But it was actually pretty cool too because you would actually play a game that felt like a full game of Werewolf with 3 players, which is kind of interesting.
Right. I just like the fact that he is taking this general idea and just twisting it 6 ways from Sunday and creating all these new interesting designs.
I think it's their evergreen, and I have to give him massive props. I can sit down and think of a trick-taking game in a few hours. I'm not a game designer. I've racked my brain for a year trying to come up with a good social deduction game, and I can't do it. But Ted Alspach seems to come up with one every 6 months.
Well, I think that's his. Like when Ted was on the show, one of the things that he talked about is that he enjoys the experience that he's creating around the table as much as it is the game itself, and I think that really shows through with some of his stuff. So, yes, everybody, the chat room is talking about the Bare Naked Ladies song. I'm not going to lie. I thought the same thing when I first got the press release from Bezier last week. I was like, oh boy. And it feels so, Chris, I'm really happy to hear that it is a good game. You have a video, right?
Yeah.
Like up on YouTube right now?
Yes.
You did a preview. Okay. I'm going to make you send me that link at some point, and I will include that in the show notes. So, after the show, I'll try to have that by the end of the show somewhere in there. So maybe Chris, if we have dead time, if you can get that link and send it over to me, that'd be great.
Yeah, I feel compelled to say that these days I don't take money for reviews. So I genuinely liked the game and will genuinely back it on Kickstarter myself. So,
which is saying something because he's only backed half dozen of games or whatever. I don't
know.
Yeah,
I despise Kickstarter. So so the fact that I will lower my standards to go out there and back something is,
boy.
I'm just being snarky, but I really did love the game, and I actually think it's going to be a big hit.
Do you think this is the best of the werewolf games that he's made?
No, Ultimate Werewolf is in my top 10, and that for me, that's never going to be beat. I don't think. I mean, I think Werewords is his second best. I'd rank this as in the top half. Okay. I think if you like a little bit more strategy, you'll prefer this over One Night. One Night is more of a party game. This is more of a strategy game. And so, I mean, that's the dichotomy I would make.
Cool. And I did not like One Night at all.
Yeah, so, I think this is different enough where people, because you can switch your role mid-game. So if you think the werewolves are going to win, you just simply try to get on the werewolf team. And that's pretty cool. So.
Yeah, it's more of a gamey kind of thing to it. Definitely felt more gamey to me when we played it. So.
Well, this sounds like something that I'm interested in as well. So I'm guessing that on the Cubist scale, buy it, play it, forget it, or burn it. This is a buy it for you, Chris?
Yep, I'll buy it.
Outstanding. Very cool. Very cool. All right. Continue with the new hotness, Mr. Brandon Kemp.
I played a roll and write that I like.
Okay.
It's the weirdest thing ever. There it is. There's a picture of it where Chris is holding it. I don't have the pretty box, so therefore I don't have the silver platter.
Brandon, like a lot of folks, made his copy of the game. If you own Rolling America and a printer, you can make this game.
Oh wait, here's my silver platter we've been using.
Wait, what? All right, you're gonna have to back up a little bit for those of us that haven't played this yet.
So Ganjan Cleaver is do you have one of the score pads? Just kind of show it.
I do.
It's basically just like a roll and write. You're rolling 6 dice, I think it is, of different colors, and 1 wild is in there as well. And you're just basically trying to fill your board with these numbers based on their colors and things like that to maximize your score. But it's got this little clever thing in there where you're basically, it's when it happens, it's really neat and it makes you feel really freaking clever, right? You're like, oh, look, I can do this, to do this, to do this, to do this, to do this.
It's combolicious.
Yes, it is combolicious. And it does. It's really freaking clever. And you'll say that over and over again. But on a turn, basically, you roll a die and then you choose a die. And then if there are any dies that are lower in value than that die you choose to use, there you go. It has to go to the silver platter according to the rules. Now, the silver platter in the box, I think, is just part of the box, right?
Yeah, it's the inside of the box.
Yeah, so there it is. So we got our nice silver platter we've been playing with. And you put your die in there. So you roll it. You're basically going to collect 3 dice that you're going to use on your board or on your score pad. And then those 3 in the middle, everybody else gets to use one of them, unless they use their +1s or their things like that, which is all sorts of fun and cleverness there. So that's basically Ganshan Clever. You're trying to score as many points as possible. I think I've scored anywhere from 250-ish to down into 124. It's kind of difficult sometimes. Quit laughing at me, Chris. I won that game.
Okay. So this is one of those games where just the scores seem unreasonably high all the time, so you definitely can feel it if you score poorly.
Yeah, you can. I think Chris said he had somebody hit 300 this weekend, which is just ungodly.
I don't know about Brandon. Like, we're kind of addicted to this game around here.
Yeah.
And like I said, this is a game where, I do believe in supporting designers. And so if you want to own a copy, you should buy a copy. But if you just want to try it out, print the score sheet off BGG, grab 6 different colored dice, and have a go at it.
My copy should be here this weekend, but it hadn't made it yet. So I broke out my 10-year-old laminator that I got on a Black Friday one time and never used, and busted it out of bubble wrap, and I printed off the sheets and laminated them, and then 8 pages in, the laminator quit working. So, but I got my copy.
Nice.
Because it only plays 4 players. It's 1 to 4. Of course, you can just sit there and play with yourself and try to score as high as possible. So I know After Dark's coming. That's why I said it.
I was gonna say, well, the solo variant will be on the After Dark show.
Yes. I don't like roll and writes normally. I always feel constricted when using things, and I feel like the dice rolls hinder me. I haven't really felt that yet with this one. That 124 was kind of bad. And it honestly there was not much we could do different. Corinza was playing it against me, and we played it 5 times a piece, and she got a 99. So there are ways you can score horribly on it, where the dice just don't agree with you, and you can't, make things work. But
okay, I was actually sort of wondering. It feels like Brandon, you and I have been doing this show now together off and on for coming up on 2 years.
Yeah,
and I feel like we've been talking about games in such a way that it seems like whenever a game involves die rolling, that's a point for you. Like that's a thing where you're like, yeah,
exactly. It's a gnash my teeth kind of thing. Yeah,
right. Okay, like Rajas of the Ganges was the most recent one that I remember where you were frustrated by the dice.
Yep.
This has enough other stuff going on that the dice frustration doesn't hurt.
Yeah, I think there are enough options there. Rajas, don't get me wrong, Rajas has some manipulation as well in there. And I really enjoy Rajas. The dice hurt me the couple times that I played it, but still I enjoy it. So I'm not anti-dice. I just prefer not to have them. Roll and writes in particular, though, I think Quicks is about the extent of my liking of roll and writes.
Okay.
So, and I don't get me started on the draw and draw games of Avenue and other things like that. So,
okay. I've only played 3 roll and write games in my life.
Yeah.
I have played Quicks. I've played Saint Malo, which I really liked. That's actually the first one I ever played.
Yeah.
And I feel like I feel like it's one of the ones that kind of started the genre. I think that it was one of the earliest ones. And then I've played whatever the one was that they released an app version of during the week of Essen a bunch of years ago. Now I'm not going to be able to come up with it. And I only ever play it solo, so I don't know what it was. But anyway, my point is that's how little I care about this genre personally, right? Like I have no desire whatsoever, but this sounds interesting.
Yeah, it is. It's good, and there's strategies to be found with it, and you can try to focus on one thing, and you'll find out, well, crap, I shouldn't have done that. I should have been more balanced. And then you try to balance, and you find out, well, crap, I should have done this. It keeps you moving, and it keeps everybody involved because everybody's kind of looking for something that they want you to roll, and there may be jerks out there who will take that from you, on purpose.
Doodle City. Thank you, Chad. That's the third one that I was trying to think of. I appreciate it.
So,
and Matt is being mildly snarky and pointing out Yahtzee. I would not call Yahtzee a roll and write. Yahtzee is a dice game with a scoring pad. That's not the same thing.
Yeah, it's a roll and write. It's Quicks, with different things going on. It's fine.
I don't know. It doesn't feel like the same thing to me because the pad itself doesn't really serve a purpose in Yahtzee except for to remind you how you have scored. That's it. The pad itself isn't a thing like it is in all the other games where there's some sort of a spatial element to what you're doing.
Yeah.
Either you're completing a line in an order or whatever. I would argue that it is significantly different, but there you go.
Yep.
All right. So Ganz schön clever.
Yes. I would say it's a buy it, but if you don't feel like ordering it from Amazon DE or one of those overseas places right now, go to Board Game Geek, print out the score sheets, which the score sheets on BGG are quite honestly better than the ones Chris gets in the box because they actually give you a scoring spot on it, where I don't think his does.
No, so mine, the scoring is on the back.
Oh, okay. There you go. So you just
flip
flip it over and do your scoring there.
Like.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's really good that way, and just get a copy of Rolling America or 5-6 dice to match the colors on there, and you're good to go.
Yeah, Rolling America has all the dice you need, and you can buy it on Amazon for like $9.
Yep.
All right. And how much is this that much more than that? I mean, obviously it's not in the States.
I don't remember what I paid. I think it was like $13.
Yeah, I think mine was $13 or $14 to import it, and that was with shipping.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so, it's not expensive.
So we could spend $9 and then have to print stuff, or just spend $14 and just have it sent to you.
But you got to wait for it because I've been waiting for 3 weeks, and mine's supposed to be here, quote unquote.
And sometimes things from Amazon Germany just don't show up.
Yep. You get bags or boxes with empty that are just air.
Okay.
And you're just like, whoa, that's fantastic. But they always make it right if you're going through Amazon D. So.
I gotcha. Okay. All right. So for you, it's a print it?
It's a print it and then buy it. Make sure that Mr. Wolfgang Warsch, did I say his name right?
So can I just make a plug for this guy real quick?
Yeah, you can.
Sure.
I was going to if you didn't.
Yeah, he's designed this, The Mind, the Quacksalber von Quinlanberg, or however you say that.
Sorry, what?
It's a game that's up for like Spiel des Jahres consideration in Germany, and then Illusion,
Illusion, yeah.
So you've got 4 games that came out from a first-time designer. This guy, like, I don't know that anybody had heard of him before this year, and all of a sudden he's got 4 games that are pretty popular. Yep. So that's pretty remarkable.
That's awesome. That's how it should be. I'm serious. When you get a good mind like that, you really want to see what I did there. You want to see that person like succeed straight out. I mean, that's sort of what Feld did, right? He came out with a couple games all at once, and all of a sudden he was the name that year. And now he's just been sort of steadily rolling since then. Same kind of deal. That's cool. Well, this sounds fun. I don't like the idea of rolling rights, but I'm kind of geeked about this.
Yep. I mean, Krinz and I sat up in bed Sunday night. Well, it was Sunday morning because we got done. We played Charterstone a couple times, and then we played Ganshon Cleaver. Got home like 2 o'clock in the morning. We grabbed a drink, went upstairs, and sat in bed and played it till like 3 in the morning and passed out.
Nice. The chat room has kind-heartedly taken me to task, by the way, on my protesting that Yahtzee is not a roll and write. So I will bow to your opinion on that. I definitely don't think of it in the same category as what is considered a roll and write in 2018. But I suppose, in Tom's words, I roll, then I write something. Yep. Sure. That's fine. I guess. By
the time I'm liking Ganshon Cleaver, and then everybody's going to be done with this. It's like the whole micro game thing.
Let's just remember, everybody, by that definition, Dungeons and Dragons is a roll and write, because sometimes I roll dice and then I write things on my character sheet. That's the point that I'm making. That's all right. You're all allowed to disagree with me, and I'm just going to point out that we can't oversimplify things. But that's all right. Even Paul disagrees with me. Everybody, I'm good at being wrong, you guys. I have a lot of practice.
I'm heartbroken to learn that I've been writing out roll and write wrong for years. On Board Game Geek, it's actually roll in write, not roll and write.
Roll and write.
Yeah. So, yeah.
All right. It's fine. It's fine. All right. I'm going to quickly talk about a game, even though it's not new, but I have finally gotten it back to the table after way too long. I want to talk about Gloomhaven. So I have owned my copy of Gloomhaven since the first edition Kickstarter fulfilled, and I bought it aftermarket. I paid a little bit too much for it, and then I bought a custom insert. And then I backed the second edition Kickstarter to get the upgraded rule book and the life and experience point dials and all of that fun stuff. And then have promptly not gotten a steady group that would play the damn thing beyond about the first 3 scenarios. And I have tried at least 5 times that I can think of to get people to play this game. And so I have had to teach the game 5 or 6 times to 5 or 6 different groups, all of whom Fizzle popped out and said, well, I think this sounds great. This is so good. And then nothing. And I can't get them to come back to the table. Well, I finally got a group, and we have started the campaign for, like I said, like the 6th time as of this weekend. And so I want to talk about Gloomhaven from a point of frustration of somebody that wishes he could dive into the content but can't. I'm bringing this up specifically because I think a lot of people are going to look at a box the size of Gloomhaven and all of those scenarios and think, I have to get through this content in order to enjoy this game. And having played the first scenario at least 8 to 10 times that I can think of, because sometimes you have to replay it if you lose and whatever, I want to say that I think this game deserves the accolades it's getting from a gameplay standpoint, not just all the content in there. This is, I think I want to kind of go to bat for it, because I think a lot of people are accusing Gloomhaven of being very cult of the new, right? Like that it's getting love because it's new and it's huge and it's all this epic sprawlingness. But it's really, really good mechanically. Like it is just a solid, interesting, challenging mechanical Euro game. Is there anybody in the world that doesn't know what Gloomhaven is? Do I need to explain it? It's a dungeon crawler with hand management, card-driven engine. Is that good, Brandon? How'd I do? Does that sound
Fine.
about right? All right, that's pretty close anyway. All right.
Yeah, dungeon crawly with hand management.
Yep.
And fiddly for days.
It is. See, I don't think the gameplay is fiddly. I think that setup and teardown is fiddly.
Yeah.
I think that it is logistically a terribly designed production, right? Like, I mean, I feel like you could have produced this game better, like less awkwardly shaped tiles that you can't store in the box. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And give me some wet erase acrylic hex boards that just make people draw on it. You know what I mean? And I think that would have done the job just as well and saved everybody a bunch of time and hassle. But having said that, it's still good. It's really good. And so I just want to say that as frustrated as I have been over the last year and a half about my inability to get it to the table, and for the record, let's see, Tom in the chat is saying that he's 9 plays in, but all solo. I tried playing this game solo and really disliked it. And the reason I did is because they tell you to play solo, you need to play 2 characters, and I don't want to play 2 characters. Like, I just don't enjoy that. I want to dig into one. So this is not a good solo experience for me. But I just wanted to kind of check back in and also say that if you don't get a custom insert, then you're just punishing yourself for Gloomhaven. Like, don't buy in if you're not going to buy an insert along with it.
That may be my entry into the flea market or into the trade table at Geekway. I'm this close to doing it.
Yeah. All right. Well, there you go. You're definitely going to get a hit on it. I mean, nobody, especially because you have an insert in there, don't you?
Yep, I do.
Yeah. So it's not like it's not going to trade.
Yeah. Just a question of what I get in return.
Yeah, I would imagine that in your particular gaming circumstance, getting it to the table would be even harder, though, because you play a lot with your family and it doesn't travel well. So you can't really take it to game days. I mean, you can, but.
Yeah, and these guys wouldn't play it anyway.
I hate it.
You really hate it?
I genuinely hate it. So
Interesting. Why?
I don't like dungeon crawlers.
Okay.
It has a vague programming feel. I don't like programming games. I thought the deck side of it, sort of the deck management, I don't know what to call it. It almost feels like deck deconstruction. So I thought that was pretty cool. And I can see why people like it, but to me, this almost feels like the video gamization of board games. And so I just didn't care for it.
Okay. I definitely, when I was teaching it this past weekend, I definitely said that you can tell that Isaac played a lot of MMOs because there's definitely some World of Warcraft coming off of this, like the way that the characters control and how you do things. Definitely, you can feel MMO influence on it. But to me, that's a selling point. Like, I enjoyed that. So I get it. Well, it's definitely not for everybody, which is probably why it's taken me 6 attempts to get a group that actually wants to play the game.
One quick follow-up question for you. Do you think it deserves the #1 spot on BGG?
Yes. Because I think it does something that no other game has really done well in a box, and it does it better than any other game that has tried to do it has done. And it does something and it's just good gameplay, even if it's not for everybody. I feel like it ticks all the boxes of a truly great game, something that is innovative and interesting on its own, something that, that does something nothing else does and does it well. I think it does all those things. So I do. But plus, I mean, if you look at the other games that are near it, I think that some of those ratings to me have always felt like legacy ratings, right? That they were rated really high early. And then, am I frozen or are you just all being very quiet?
No, I can hear you.
Being quiet.
Okay. Yeah. My internet's been so sketchy that now I'm paranoid every time something strange happens. So, I mean, looking at the top 10, the other top 10, there's only like 2 or 3 of those that I feel like are like just really solid designs that aren't just hype. So yeah, I do. I really like it. So, all right. You know who isn't just hype is Dr. Reiner Knizia.
How'd I do? Share of hype too. Come on.
Was that pretty good?
That was good.
Yeah. No, he does have a share of hype, but let's talk about, I think is it safe to say that Knizia might be is he the most prolific Eurogame designer of all time?
I think he's the most prolific game designer.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Yeah, period. Well, Sid Saxon would probably give him a run for his money if for no other reason than all the designs in the books that he's published. I'm not talking about games in boxes.
I think even by a factor of 5, it's probably still Knizia. I mean, he said he has 700 plus games, and I mean, Saxon had a couple hundred, right? But I mean,
yeah, maybe.
I mean, and Knizia is still going, so
sure. Yeah, so, I'm not arguing with you on it. I don't.
I won't out him because it's somebody in the chat, and but I was having dinner a few weeks ago with somebody, and I said, I think Alan Moon's the biggest name in the industry, right? And he goes, no, I think it's probably Reiner Knizia, and I was like, oh, yeah. So, is he? Do you think he's the big name in the industry?
Well, so okay, we're going to get into that because I think he was 15 years ago. And I think that his star has faded a little bit by modern sensibilities. Now, not because his games are bad. Okay, so let's start here from a point of ultimate respect. I think that if it isn't for Reiner Knizia, modern gaming doesn't exist the way that it does right now. Because I think he and Klaus Teuber, between the two of them, whether you like, I'm sorry?
And Wolfgang Kramer, but yeah.
Sure, but see, I don't think Kramer was the big runaway success that the other two were. Like, I mean, his games are great. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trash talking anybody here, but I would say Knizia hit it out of the park so many times so early in the process that people never stop talking about Tigris and Euphrates, or never stop talking about Ra, or modern art, or Lost Cities.
It would be interesting to see who had more sales between Knizia and Kramer, but I would bet it was Kramer.
Because Kramer has the 5.
He has the 5 Spiel des Jahres wins
that get him.
That's true. That's true. Okay, so maybe I'm thinking of this from too much of an America-centric point of view.
Yeah, and so I mean, Wolfgang Kramer absolutely dominated the late 1980s and early 90s, and then Knizia came in the early 90s and really carried us through, the mid 2000s. I mean, since the mid 2000s, he hasn't published as many things that were big hits, but from like 1990 to like 2005 or 6, he was kind of the man, right?
Yeah. So if you go on to Board Game Geek, okay, and you search for him as a designer, and then you go to linked items, right? So that's the list. That's the part of a designer's page where it shows all the stuff that their name is on. And then you sort by rank. Okay, which is the way that I wanted to look at this, because alphabetical is all well and good, but I wanted to know the ones that board gaming, that BGG and its community tend to rate the highest.
So what, 11 of them in the top 400.
Right. Which is not, and only one in the top 100.
Yeah.
Which I think is interesting. Only 4 in the top 200, but then a ton if you look at, so how many games are there in the database? Like 70,000 at this point, somewhere around there.
I think it's on 100, right? Chad in the chat can tell us.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. Well, we did an episode about this. Patrick and I did some months back, and I believe it was like 67,000 entries at that point. So if it's over 100,000, then I'm profoundly disturbed, because that means that they published 30,000 games in the last year, and that would make me sad.
1 week is 252, 197.
Every week is 252 games that you're suggesting?
No, I'm saying 1 week Ultimate Werewolf is numbered at 252,000.
Oh, gotcha. Wow. Okay, well then maybe we got something wrong. I don't know.
Well, no, but Brandon, that includes expansions and accessories.
Oh, that does. Sorry, okay. I always forget that crap. So
Chad is saying roughly 98,000.
There you go.
Which is still disturbing, considering there were 67,000 when we did that episode. That weirds me out more than a little bit. I can't imagine why we can't keep up, ladies and gentlemen.
It's also really easy to get something in the database. I'm listed as a game designer, and there are like 5 people that have copies of my game.
Yeah, I am as well.
I'm keeping mine in shrink, man. It's going to be worth something.
There you go.
If you use it as firewood.
Nice. So, all right. So Paul in the chat just typed 3 words: math versus fun. Okay.
Why do those have to be apart?
They don't.
Okay.
And that's actually one of the things that I was going to say is that there are games that have been specifically targeted as being this game is a spreadsheet.
Yeah.
You know, Through the Ages leaps to mind here. A lot of people have referred to that as a spreadsheet of a game. When one of my all-time favorites. I adore that game. I adore spreadsheets, though. Like I just did. Literally, somebody asked on Twitter a week ago, what are 10 things that don't have anything to do with gaming that make you genuinely happy? And I think the second thing I put was writing a formula for a spreadsheet that just makes everything work. Like, I love that stuff. So for some people, that is fun. But Reiner gets tagged for his games being math and not just games. I want to talk about that.
So can I just give my vehement dissent to that point?
Yes, I knew you would. So that was me tossing you a softball. Chris, go.
I love math. I'm an old accountant, but I just don't see Reiner Knizia's games as very mathy. So Ganz Schön Clever is mathy. The scores are in the hundreds of points. My favorite Reiner Knizia games often don't involve math. So my favorite game he's ever published is Lord of the Rings: The Confrontation. There is zero math in that game. I guess you have to compare fight powers at some point, but you know you can do that with two hands. So Through the Desert, not much math. You add up some victory points at the end. His auction games are mathy, but I think all auction games are pretty mathy, right? So Ingenious is not that mathy. Through the Desert, Tigris and Euphrates does not seem that mathy. I think a lot of his games are mathematically sound, and he puts a lot of math in them to make them balanced. But I don't think they're especially mathy, especially not compared to a Stefan Feld game, for instance.
Okay, so and I think that we're coming at that from two different definitions. Because as far as just like Power Grid is oftentimes attacked as being a game where you have to, I don't want to do math, therefore I can't play Power Grid, right? Because you have to be able to figure stuff out. I don't think that is not the impression of the criticism that I understood. What I understood was that it felt like the math was not well concealed in the design, right? Like that you could feel that things were too mathematically balanced. And
I don't even feel that way. So in the Confrontation, I feel like I'm executing a 20-minute Lord of the Rings battle. When I play Tigris and Euphrates, I feel like I'm building a civilization in an abstracted form, but I don't feel the math. When I play, Through the Desert, to me that game feels a lot like Go. But I don't, and I know that has a sound mathematical basis, but it doesn't feel mathy to me. So, okay. I mean, at least not by the standards of a lot of other designers. I mean, why don't we call Stefan Feld Mr. Math?
Because it's remedial math. Sorry.
It's math for dummies. God. Yeah, for sure. We're going to do a Feld episode too, and we're going to make sure.
We'll sit down and we can play Arkwright. That's math, right? That's spreadsheet. That's just pure math number crunching, right? Or we can play wrong. Yeah.
Some of it is. I would argue that it is not pure math number crunching, but I understand why everybody thinks so. It's because it's a heavy economic game, and heavy economic games always involve a lot of math because, well, it's economics, and that is math.
Now, the Keltis in Lost Cities family. Those can be pretty mathy at the end, especially Lost Cities. So, I mean, and I feel the math in that game, but I don't think that's true of all of Knizia's designs. So,
well, it can't be. There's 700 of them.
Yeah, I don't even feel that way about his most popular design.
No, I don't either. Whenever I play them, so
I think it's one of the. So there have been a couple of criticisms, and I wanted to bring them up. The math was one of them. The other one is that all of his games are essentially abstracts. Just some of them get a better paint job than others. I don't know that I necessarily agree with that either, but I understand that point. Like, I would argue that modern art is not very abstract at all.
So Brandon and I interviewed Dr. Knizia a few months ago, and we had the occasion to ask him about this. And if it feels that way, I think that's because of how he designs games. He designs them all in the abstract.
Yeah.
And then he hands them off to a publisher, and he feels like it's the publisher's economic risk to sort of put the theme on the game and make it have sort of that narrative arc that a lot of people are looking for. So because of how he designs games, that's probably a fair criticism. When he designs them, they are probably basic components in abstracted form.
Yeah, they're just the mechanisms to him and the way the game is going to work.
Okay, that's fair. So if that's his design process, then that is not as much a criticism as it is an observation. And so now we're looking at this in terms of, if you are a theme first gamer, then Knizia titles aren't where you should be looking anyway.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. And I think if there is a better criticism of Reiner Knizia, and I'm a big fan of his, it's that of his 700 games, probably 675 of them are crap.
Yeah, he's too prolific.
He's too prolific. I think, he just tries to get material out there, and a lot of his games are, they're just not great ideas to begin with.
Yeah, but give me those 25 games over 25 of most anybody else.
Yeah.
Okay, so I want to go. So I think I agree with your defenses of all of the Knizia so far. And here's the funny thing. Brandon, on your show, you had us do, or through Punchboard Media, I don't know, what did you play this week, or was it just through Punchboard Media, where we all bring something to the table? Our Mount Games More.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
So pick your 4 designers. Mr. Knizia did not make mine.
No.
If I recall correctly.
Did not. Now I got to go look who made them. But go ahead.
Yeah. And not because I don't like his games, because honestly, his name isn't one that pops into my head any longer. But when I went back today and I did peek behind the curtain, I do somewhere to the neighborhood of 2 hours of research for every show. Some of it lighter research than others, but I do a fair amount of Googling, and research in my mind is also things like going through my collection and seeing what, the things that I know and don't know about it, or playing the game or whatever. In this particular case, I went and I pulled up a list of his most well-known games, and I made the list of the stuff I really like, the stuff I played, and I'm take it or leave it, and the stuff that I don't like. And the first of those 3 lists is the longest, right? There's a lot of his stuff that I actively like, and a bunch of it I own. Yeah. So I just never think about him. I don't know why. So why do you think that is? Why is he not a big name in 2018? Is it just because he's not publishing as much stuff? Is he too busy on the App Store?
No, I think I'll throw out 2 ideas, and then you guys can tell me that I'm just sitting on an island by myself. I think he's always a bridesmaid and never a bride. And so the guy was nominated for the Spiel des Jahres, or received some sort of Spiel des Jahres recognition 13 times before he ultimately won for Celtis. And I don't think any of us are going to call Celtis his best design. Maybe Brandon will. But I mean, the guy, I think he's not on the top of our minds because a lot of his things are really solid, but very few of them are very great. And so I think that's a criticism. The other thing is, this guy designed games when single mechanics were popular, right? So most of his games are a one-trick pony internally, and modern game design often has 2 or 3 different things mashed up and going on. And so I think his games feel a little bit dated in that respect.
Okay. The chat room is weighing in on this a little bit. Jeff, his lack of story is why he isn't thought of. If you'd expand on that, I don't know if you're talking about the lack of theme in the games, or like if his story specifically.
I imagine it's about game theme.
I assume so as well, but
so yeah. One more thing. Sorry to just keep talking, but
no, go.
I think he's also sits in a ivory tower, right? So he is. Whereas Alan Moon and a lot of the other really popular designers of the last couple decades are out there at conventions, easy to talk to. It's kind of hard to actually meet Reiner Knizia at a convention. And so I think because he doesn't interact with fans as much as a lot of other game designers as a group are a very accessible group. I think that that might be why he's not top of mind too.
That's fair, because you have, for every Reiner Knizia, you have an Eric Lang who is all over social media talking with anybody that'll listen, or John Gilmore, or, any of these other names who maybe, don't have as long and storied of careers, but are just right out there talking to everybody. So yeah, I think that's interesting. I never really thought of it that way, but that makes perfect sense, right? Like I remember when I met Ignacy Trzewiczek the first year I went to BGG, and I was super excited. Ignacy only made like 2 games that I had ever played, but I was excited to meet him because here's a guy who I had heard of that I was meeting. This is cool, you know. That there's something to be said for that, for being able to just walk right up to somebody and say,
Yeah,
I think your stuff is awesome.
Even if you're a member of the media. So I've interviewed Dr. Knizia 4 or 5 times. I mean, it's not, you don't just like email Reiner Knizia. Like he has a staff member that like everything goes through. Like this guy's probably the most like isolated of the game designers. And the other thing is people may not know this. He doesn't really play other people's games. He doesn't. My understanding is he doesn't want to be accused of like game plagiarism. So as a general rule, he kind of avoids playing other people's games, and so he's not out there commenting on them either, which a lot of game designers do.
Gotcha. All right. Ben in the chat asked, "Is it fair to say that the Good Doctor is more quantity than quality?" I don't know, Brandon. What do you think about that?
I think that's kind of unfair to say. Sure, there's a lot of quantity there. And some of it is of a lackluster quality, but you know, I think the quality that he's brought forth over the years kind of elevates him above that comparison. I don't think that's fair at all.
I also think when you discuss Reiner Knizia, you can kind of discuss the nature of creativity. This guy had a really good run for like 15 years, and he hasn't had that many hits in the last 10 years. And so the past 10 years are when he's really been focused on that quantity over quality thing.
And we're seeing that resurgence from him, though, and it's being held by the reprints and things that are coming that are getting new looks and getting new things. And then he throws something like Voodoo Prince in there, which is just a fantastic trick-taking game. So, I mean, he's there and he's still making really good stuff. It's just, I think he's kind of overshadowed himself, if that's possible.
Yeah.
Let's also point out that Reiner Knizia has been a professional game designer and only a professional game designer, meaning he is paying all of his bills as just this for over 20 years.
No, not a publisher.
Not a publisher, just designing games, and is paying the bills for over 20 years.
And paying the bills of his staff, which is pretty damn impressive. Like a lot of folks can't make enough to support themselves doing this.
Yeah. So in order to say, like, here's the deal. I mean, you can probably count on both hands, maybe, the number of game designers that are doing this and only this and making good money in 2018, right? Like, I mean, some of them, maybe there's more than 10. I don't feel like there's a lot more than 10. I
think there are more full-time game reviewers than game designers at this point.
Yes, I think that's probably very safe to say. Or content creators at the very least, right? Even if they're not reviewers. Yeah. I don't think so. I mean, the idea that somebody has been making enough money to live their life since the 90s, okay, which is longer than most of us have been playing these games at all, I think says something. So I don't think I think he has a lot of stuff. But all of his stuff is getting published, and it's getting published. And here's the deal. Even a bad Reiner Knizia game is still better than some games that come out on Kickstarter right now that make tens of thousands of dollars and get published. I mean, if you watched the show last week, I'll tell you right now, I don't think I've ever played a Burn It from Reiner Knizia. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I have one.
Oh.
Maybe, but my point is, out of 700 some designs, like one really genuinely bad game, that's pretty all right. You know, like that's a pretty good average.
Yeah, I probably played 50 of his games, and I only have one that I genuinely hate. And Brandon will have to remind me the name. Brandon forced me to play it.
It was Sakura, and we played it at a suboptimal player count. But yeah, it's just random goofiness, and it's not that great of a design. But I mean, it's not that great of a game. It's a good design. It works.
There are a few of his games that are very well thought of. And here's the deal. Just because you don't like a game doesn't mean it isn't a good game either, right? We've all had that conversation a million times.
Yep.
There are games that I don't like that are fine games. Matter of fact, I don't like Keltis. I know both of you do. I'm not a fan. I've played it a half a dozen times. I always wish I was playing something else.
Do you like Lost Cities?
I do like Lost Cities quite a bit.
I think I like Lost Cities quite a bit better than Keltis too. So,
and I have no idea why, because I understand that it's essentially very similar designs.
Well,
I understand.
I think there's a certain duel to Lost Cities, and Keltis is a little bit of the tension is gone. So
Yeah, maybe that's what it is. I don't know. All right, so let's go through this. Yeah, El Grande, Jeff, is a great example of a game that I recognize as good and intensely dislike. Like, I know that's a good game. I just don't like it. And I mean, that's okay. So I want to go through, let's celebrate a little bit, because we pointed out a lot of the criticisms that he's got. I want to celebrate the guy a little bit here, because there are a lot of my all-time favorite games that when I sat and okay, somebody, yeah, here we go. Jeff in the chat said we include Feld's name with his game titles. Knizia just used the game title without his name. And I think that's actually a good point, is that Feld games feel like Feld games. Even games that aren't Feld games feel like Feld games. Like Brandon's catchphrase for Pulsar 28 is the Feldiest Feld that ever Felded, or something like that.
That's pretty much what it is.
Right. And I understand that critique, right? Is that Stefan Feld's games feel like Stefan Feld games, whereas Reiner Knizia's games don't necessarily feel like a Reiner Knizia game until you get told it later, right? They are just games that stand on their own. And I think that you can make an argument that that's a selling point, not a detraction point, right? That his games don't necessarily need his name to be enjoyable. So I want to celebrate what the games that you think of. What are your favorite? Let's. Do you guys think you can do a top 5?
Yeah, I actually put one together for.
Yeah, he did the top 10. So
all right. So I think I could do a top. I could do top 5. I don't know that I would be comfortable with top 10, because after about 5, I start to get a little like lost in the woods of games that are okay, but I don't love. So from number 5 to number 1, Chris, let's count up.
So start with 5.
Yeah, we'll start with 5. We'll just steal blatantly from other shows for this one. So what's your number 5?
Yeah, so Medici, which is one of the auction trilogy, along with Raw and Modern Art. All 3 of them are going to be in my top 10. But I think that I love auction games, and Dr. Knizia has done some of the best auction games ever made. So the trilogy is fantastic. And Medici, like I said, I recently discovered it. I bought an old used copy that is hideous in its artwork.
Oh, it's beautiful.
But the new versions from Grail Games are beautiful. And we've been playing it out here, and I really enjoy it.
I've only ever played, I always heard it Medici, so I don't know. I'm going to say it wrong, sorry. Or maybe I'm saying it right.
I always said Medici too, and then the Di Lorenzos corrected me. Now, they could just be messing with me. So
right.
the Di Lorenzos mess with me more than like anybody else in the board game world.
There you go. The game is, I've only ever played the app version of it, and I really like that. I have yet to play it in cardboard form anywhere, but I want to one of these days. But I like the app a lot, and it made my list. Just didn't make the top 5. Brandon, how about you? What's your number 5?
If you're going to cut me off at 5, I'm going to go with the sentimental 5 of Indigo. A lot of people will sit there and they love Suro, or they love, little route building kind of games like that. We played, I don't know how many.
I honestly did not know he did Indigo.
You didn't? Yeah, that's a Knizia.
Yep.
And yeah, we absolutely love that one around here for our, we reach for that 9 times out of 10 before we'll reach for Suro.
Well, because Indigo is the pick up and deliver version of Suro, right? Sort of, isn't it? Isn't that the one where you're trying to get the beads from?
You're trying to get the beads. You're trying to actually collect them. Yes, you're not trying to knock people off the board and get you things like that. You're trying to steal their beads by building the routes from the center, and then you have some around the edge. Yeah.
Gotcha. Yep.
And it looks really pretty on the table.
Indigo is really pretty. Indigo would have been my number 10.
Yep.
That's because I like that game. I am astonishingly bad at spatial awareness games like that. So like, that's just a game where I'm going to sit down and realize that I'm going to be terrible at whatever I'm doing for the next 45 minutes, but it's pretty enough that I'm okay with it.
Yeah.
So let's see. Why is High Society not grouped with the auction games?
It's a card game.
It's considered an honorary member. I read that last week.
Oh, well, then there you go. It is, Jason. All right. My number 5 is Traumfabrik, which was published as Dream Factory, or as, what is it?
Hollywood Blockbuster, I think.
Hollywood Blockbuster. There you go. This is the game about making movies Traumfabrik is the one that I played the most often. That was the German one that had the real actors in real movies. So you could cast Keanu Reeves in King Kong, or and he made one of the things I loved the most about it is that Reiner put himself in the game as the worst actor in the game. He's the only actor that has a negative score, so he actively makes movies worse by being in them, which I thought was a fun nod. The thing, aside from the fun theme of just putting ridiculous actors into movies, and I think that what I liked about it is that you bid. It has an auction component to it.
This is like the fifth one of the quintilogy, I think is what.
Yep. But this is a zero-sum game. All of the currency stays in the game the entire time. So anything that you pay in bids is going to the other players. So everybody at the table is going to get some of what you just spent, which means that by winning an auction, you are automatically not just weakening your own position for the next auction, but strengthening the positions of other players, which very much affects how the bidding goes. And I think makes it a fascinating game. It also means that unlike some auction games, you are never truly out of the auction process because income is always 1 or 2 auctions away, right? As soon as somebody else wins an auction, you might not win the next auction, but then you will have some money to win the one after that. I think I like zero-sum games like that. I think that that's an interesting mechanic that isn't used often enough in games that have a money component. So I really like that. Plus the theme is super fun. So my number 5 is Traumfabrik, or whatever that is.
There's no game in the world that I would prefer to play right now than that one. That is one of the Knizia classics that I've never had a friend that had a copy of. So I've never gotten to play that one.
Alex Yeager from Mayfair Games brought a copy to Gen Con one year. And it was a fantastic night of drinking his homemade Long Island iced tea recipe and playing Traumfabrik. It was one of my favorite game experiences of my life. So I was probably slightly biased by the fact that I was drinking fantastic Long Island iced teas while I was playing it. But I remember that's how I learned it. And then I played Hollywood Blockbuster numerous times after that. Very good. All right. Number 4, Chris.
So
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
My number 4 is Through the Desert. Which is I've never been a fan of the game Go. I'm sorry to all the Go lovers out there, but Through the Desert is a game that feels like Go to me, and yeah, I love it. I've only gotten the chance to play it twice. I played it and bought a copy after the most recent play. I just think it's devilishly clever. It's devilishly simple. And, I really want to eat the little candy-looking camels. But I think it's a cool game. I've played it on the app a lot, so I have played it more than twice. I've just played it twice in person.
Gotcha. I have played this and don't remember anything about the gameplay. I just remember that it looks like candy.
It does. It looks exactly like candy.
That is legitimately, unfortunately, the only thing that I remember. I didn't even put it on my list because I couldn't remember anything about the gameplay. So I was like, if I can't remember
played it, and it sparked a fit of rage by a certain player at the table. So it's a wonderful game.
Gotcha. All right, Brandon, number 4.
I'm going a little bit oddball here just because I think you guys are going to hit all the big ones. So I'm kind of highlighting ones that I like that I don't think you're going to say. Okay. Except for my number 1, which I think Chris is going to know what that one is.
Brandon's number 1 is my number 3.
Yeah, there you go. I'm going to say On Guard. I absolutely love the hand management and the little classic fencing duel. We knew it more as Flash Duel.
Yep.
But we kind of went back and we got the old On Guard version of it as well. So absolutely love On Guard.
Yeah, On Guard was an app too. I think that's where I played that for the first time. Yeah. And I remember playing the app version and thinking, this is really cool. And I am amazed that nobody's ever done this. and then it got done as Flash Duel, and then it also got done as other games took that idea and ran with it, I feel like, after that.
Yeah, they may have. I don't know. It's basically you just have the hand of cards and the numbers, how many spaces you move forward, and you're basically just you're fencing.
Yeah, it's fencing. Yeah. I mean, it's a fencing game, and it's ultimately that is what fencing is, right? Is maneuvering to be at perfect sword length when the other player isn't ready.
Yep.
So, I mean, that's exactly how it goes. Yeah, that's a really good choice. Very cool. Actually, it's funny that you said your lead up to this, Brandon, was that you were going to pick games that nobody else was going to pick, because I'm definitely picking one that I guarantee is not on either one of your lists. My number 4 is Abandoned Ship.
I've never heard of that, Bill.
Yep. See, there you go. Abandoned Ship was published. Yep. It is an AEG game. It's a dice game where you are. There are 7 rats that are trying to escape a sinking ship, and the rats are of 7 different colors. And there's a dice pool of 8 dice, 1 die of each of the 7 colors of rats, and then an 8th wild die. And on your turn, you roll all of the dice, and then use one of them. And the die that you use is most likely removed from the pool. So if you roll, you might choose to use a die that has a really crappy number for a mouse you don't care about, or you might choose, if you roll a really good number for a mouse you do care about. Trick is, the 3 mice that out of the 7 that you care about are hidden, and the other players don't know. So everybody's sort of scooting these mice up this ship. And the gimmick of it is that after the dice pool empties, the whole ship sinks X number of spaces, and the ship physically pulls down, and like it slides down itself. And so the water line, if it gets to the rat, kills it. So you can get eliminated from the game. In addition, the first rat to get to the deck of the ship gets trampled by the humans that are still trying to get off the ship. So if you're the first one out, you lose also. So you don't want to be first. You want to be second, third, or fourth. It is ridiculously fun. It's a little bit silly. I actually did a video about it on the YouTube channel a few weeks ago as an under the radar game. The first one in what I hope is to be a series, because I think this is a really good game that I know you can get for dirt cheap nowadays.
It was clearance. That's why Carinza bought it.
Yep. And it's really good, and it's easy to teach. It's every die for each of the 7 rats is functionally different. So all of the rats have different characteristics. Like one rat always moves forward but isn't particularly fast. One rat tends to be very streaky, so his die has lots of high numbers and lots of low numbers. It's really clever.
Guess what I'm making Brandon play tomorrow at our Missouri has a state holiday tomorrow. I'm making Brandon play this. So.
I'll bring it out.
Abandoned Ship is really good.
I don't remember how many it can play. Is it?
It can play, I believe, 6 or 7.
Yep. We can go to 7.
Yeah, it plays a gigantic. That's the other neat thing about it. It's a cool, bigger group game that doesn't overstay its welcome.
Yeah.
So it's really cool. It's very pretty. It's got neat table presence because of the sinking ship thing. It looks really slick on the table. It's really good. It's not
a good AEG game. Yeah, which is kind of a rare thing.
Yep. You're not wrong. It's real good and it's cheap. So that's my number 4 is Abandoned Ship.
Okay, number 3.
I like that I taught Chris something. That makes me happy.
No, I'm super excited now. I love the idea of the themes too, actually. Yep. Number 3 for me is modern art. And if that's not Brandon's number 1, I'm not sure what's going to be. But modern art is, I think it won the Deutscher Spielpreis. It's 25 years old as of last year.
It was robbed for the Spiel.
Yeah, it's gotten a lot of editions over the years, and some of them have beautiful artwork and some of them have hideous artwork. But all of them are auction-y goodness. I've heard it called the auctioniest of the auction game.
Because that's all it is an auction.
Yep. If you haven't, there is an auctioneer auction game in existence. It's called 20th Century from Czech Games Edition. If you really like auctions, you need to play that one. But other than that, yes, it's right up there.
Yeah, so this one has like what, Brandon, 5 kinds of auctions in it?
Yep, 5 different. The ones are 5 or 6.
Is a fun fact for me. Actually, it's probably not interesting to anybody else in the world. This is one of the 3 games I let myself collect the different versions of, and you can go down a rabbit hole with buying modern art versions.
Well, how many did he say there were? Because we asked him, and he kind of mentioned that there were probably over 50.
Yeah, I mean, it was some obscenely high number, and one of the reasons why the article has not come out yet is because it sort of sent me down a rabbit hole of trying to find all these different versions of the game that I just can't learn about.
I'll look it up while you gush.
Because every different country can basically just kind of localize the game to what they want it to be.
And I think this is one of the few games where the theme comes through.
It does come through, and it makes you want to take part in the theme. And it makes
I will tell you, there is no there is no game group in the world as fun to play this with as the guys in Jefferson City, because we have a member of our game group named John Luker, who occasionally contributes to one of the podcasts that Brandon runs. Yeah. And this guy does not know that the items in the game have a maximum value. And so if the maximum potential value is 30, he'll bid 35. And I always say irrational exuberance, John, and he doesn't quite get that. I know that there's a mathematical cap. So.
Mm-hmm. Yep, and it's funny that you mention all that, because I'm not trying to yuck your yum here, because I do enjoy plays of modern art with the right group.
You have to have fun people.
Yeah, it is, but because the game is ultimately solvable, especially as the game goes on, it is very easy to have any one person at the table can suck the fun out of the table without a lot of work.
Yeah,
which is the only critique I have of that game. Chinatown has the same problem for me.
Yeah, we do a lot of things that are not in the game rules. We make people name the paintings, and so
right,
And
see, now I understand why you guys like it so much. Because if I had a group like that played it on the
we basically role play modern art.
Yeah,
so there you go. By the way,
we have horribly offensive accents. I mean, it's just weirdness that happens at the table when we play this game.
BGG, by the way, thinks that there are 17 different versions of the game.
Yeah, and those were the 17 or so that I was aware of, and then he throws out this obscenely high number, and I panicked, and I'm like, how am I going to research all of these?
Yep.
I had a copy of the 2004 version. It might still be around somewhere. The Mayfair one.
The prettiest one is the one that I'm just desperate to get. It's the I think the Korean version from Dice Tree Games. It's got metal coins. It's got a gavel. It's
gavel.
Yeah, that is pretty
like an actual gavel. And I don't sleep on the Simon version. I like the Brazilian artwork in it. And it's fun.
The
it looks really nice.
Version is pretty cool. It comes with a little what are those called? Easel. Yeah.
So the idea that this game has gone through 17 printing should tell people that haven't played it that it is a worthy design, right?
Yeah.
Like it's just, I mean, it is. It's
not
you do have to have the right group.
If you like auction games and you have never played modern art, just quit watching us and go play.
Don't quit watching.
Here's the thing.
Oh, sorry. Don't quit watching.
Don't like mathy games. This is a mathy.
This is math.
That's true. Yeah, for sure. But again, like you said earlier on, every auction game has to have some math behind it. It can't help it.
Yep.
So there you go.
Whatever you do, don't lose it. Anyway,
Brandon, what's your number 3?
I'm gonna go with Chin. Nice little abstract Asian theme. Or QIN.
Got it.
I think it was an R&R game here in the States, if I'm not mistaken. Eggert Spiel, I think, is who brought it over to the Euro countries. But it's just a abstract area control, area influence kind of game where you're building these neat little pagodas and you're building your colored, your color of a area out. And it's really simple, really fun, and I lose horribly at it.
Never played this one. This got talked about in the chat room as being one that sort of flew under the radar.
Yep, this is what prompted me to say that we're going to boot Chris and add Chad to the show.
Nice.
I've met Chad Roberts now. He's a far more interesting person than I am. So.
Nice. Yeah, I need to try this one of these days.
But once again, I mean, I'm not saying what I really think are the best ones for me. I'm naming the ones that you guys aren't going to name, except for my number one. So
you're trolling, sort of.
I'm not trolling. I really like these. These would be like my 10 through 5 or 6.
Gotcha.
Maybe.
Okay. My number 3 is Lost Cities. I think that, to my money, Lost Cities is the best 2-player game that has maybe ever been designed, or at least the best light 2-player game that's ever been designed. I like the idea that a hand takes, once you know what you're doing, 5 minutes, maybe 10. You can play as many hands as you want. This is one of those games that if you are a couple and you want a game that you can play for as long or as little time as you want, this is a great one to just keep the score pad in the box and just keep a running tally. I tell people this all the time. You should have this in your collection if you ever get into 2-player gaming situations. Lost Cities is wonderful. It is essentially a 2-player rummy variant. That's really what it is. But it's so well done. It's so easy for people to pick up on. Like I said, because it plays so fast, you can play. You can say, we're going to play 10 hands tonight. Okay, great. Now you've signed up for 2 hours or whatever. Or we have a half an hour before we have to go do a thing. Cool. Let's play a few hands of this. It's the perfect 2-player game. It's really good. So yeah, the tile version that just came out, I suppose, I don't know. And here's the deal. I wish that the regular game didn't have the tarot sized cards. That's my only issue with it. I wish it was just regular sized cards. So that way it was a little bit like it could be in a bag. There's no reason this game couldn't be in a bag instead of a box. And I don't like shuffling tarot size cards, but other than that, I really, really adore it. And yes, Chad, I got suckered into buying the stupid playmat with the 6th color too, and I've yet to play it because the game doesn't need it. I bought an expansion for a game that didn't need an expansion, and I knew it when I bought it, and I don't know why I bought it, but I did it because I'm a completionist because I like the damn game that much. So that's it. Lost Cities number 3.
Which I still have not played, but I played the better version. So
now I don't think you played the better version. I think you played.
I was just thinking. Yes, I've played. Well, no, I played To Go, but I was also meaning I've played Keltis.
Yeah. I really think that I think that it and Keltis meet 2 different needs. I really think you should try this one.
I will try Lost Cities one of these days. It just, it hasn't, the opportunity has not presented itself.
Except for the fact that you should just buy the damn thing and be done with it and add it to your growing collection anyway, because it's cheap. There's no reason for you to not own this. Like, it's cheap. It's not like...
there is if I have Keltis, and if I have Lost Cities To Go, and if I have Keltis the card game, and if I have Keltis the tile game.
No, get out of here. No, you're wrong. It's fine. All right, cool. Moving on. We're gonna move past this so that way he can't continue saying wrong things. Number 2.
Oh, I've got more wrong.
I'm sorry to do this to you, Bill, but it's Lost Cities the tile game.
That's fine. I haven't played it yet, so I can't speak.
The tile game is fantastic. It's fast. It's got a couple of cool things that he added in. But here's just to go back to Lost Cities for one brief second. I love that, the second most of the series. I agree with you. I think Keltis is the inferior version. But here's the thing: Lost Cities almost didn't exist. Reiner Knizia designed it. He kept trying to sell it to a publisher, and no publisher would pick it up. And finally, he started. He said. I don't know that he used these exact words, but he said basically, I had enough clout with enough publishers where I was like, no, one of you is going to print this game. And that's how we got Lost Cities. But yeah, the tile version that came out this year is fantastic.
Yeah, I need to play it. I'll probably get it, if for no other reason than that way I got a pocket version of a game I already know I like.
And it's like, you can import it for less than $10.
Yeah, that'll happen. All right, Lost Cities tile game. Yeah, it's fine. I'm being told that I'm wrong again. Yeah, I told you guys I was really good at this. All right, Brandon, number 2.
Oh God, I really want to save number 1 and be actually number 1, but I may just not, because I've got like 5 different ones here.
If you don't say Modern Art is number 1, we're all going to know you're lying. You've been ranting about how much you adore that game for your entire life, so it's not like you're going to get away with anything here.
What game is my number 1 game, Chris?
Oh, it's Gingopolis.
No, it's not.
Wait, what?
It's Carcassonne. It's my favorite game.
Oh, okay.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
So, Knizia did a wonderful little thing called Carcassonne the Castle.
Ah, yeah, the Castle. I forgot that was him.
Which it didn't nearly get played enough, and I actually sold it off here recently to a couple of people who I know were really wanting to get it. So I was like, fine, you can have the copy and just enjoy it. But I think it's a really, really, really well done 2-player version of Carcassonne with the Knizia touch.
It is.
So,
and it does one thing that no other Carcassonne game does, which is it violates the Carcassonne rule. In that all sides of a tile have to match. Which is jarring when you're first playing it for the first time. It's a learning curve in and of itself, but it is really good.
It's odd. Yes.
Once you get your brain around that, though, it's awesome. I agree.
Oh, wait, Paul agreed with me about Keltis?
Yeah, Paul, I know. Whatever. Paul, I think Paul, Paul, do I owe you money or something? I think he's just maybe I'm just, no, it's fine. No, he agreed with you.
But that's going to be, I'm going to go with Carcassonne the Castle as my number 2.
It is really good. I forgot about it. That would have made my top 10 had I remembered that it existed. More correctly, had I remembered that he did it.
That's why I'm saying these.
Yep, exactly. My number 2 is Amun-Re. This is the auction game that is Vegas Showdown done right, or maybe the one that inspired Vegas Showdown. I don't actually remember which one came first. This is the auction game about building pyramids in Egypt. The neat thing about this is that at the halfway point of the game, ownership of everything goes away, but the pyramids remain. So now you're fighting over previously improved stuff, which changes the dynamic of the auctions from all of the auctions in the first half. The different territories have their are better or worse or whatever, based on just how the board is printed. But then the second half, that has been modified by how the players played in the first half. I think it's brilliant. It does so many things right. I love that jumping over tracks auction mechanic that Vegas Showdown used and a couple other games have used since then. Homesteaders is another one that uses the same auction mechanic, but Amun-Re did it first, and I still think did it best. That's why I was so mad when the rulebook was all janked up in the Tasty Minstrel version, and I was actively pissed when I looked at it because it's such a good game. It needed a reprint, and then they effed up the rulebook, and I was super annoyed. Eric Buscemi likes to tell people that the first thing I ever said to him was how bad the rulebook was for that version of it. Formatting errors on the first page, like words printed over words.
Well, Chris, I was going to learn that one tonight so we could play it tomorrow, but I have the TMG version.
That's fine. It's still a great game. You can play it. Just don't, like, if you know how to play the game, the TMG version is gorgeous. Yeah, you can play it. Look, it's not an unreadable rule book. It's just annoying.
Okay.
It's a classic.
Did Bill just go away?
We just lost a Beal. He was talking about, there, he's coming back. He was telling me about how it's a classic and yada, 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 yada. Do you want to go ahead and give your number one? Well, we'll keep this moving. There's Bill. Never mind. He can
the internet hates me. Yes, it is a classic. You should play it. Bring it with you tomorrow. Do it.
Okay, you want me to move to number one?
Number one.
My number one is Lord of the Rings: The Confrontation. Love that game. I won't rave about it anymore, but I just adore it.
Yep.
I have never played that one. I have never played The Confrontation. I played the Lord of the Rings.
If you like War of the Ring, but don't want to play for 4 hours and just want to play for 20 minutes, it's asymmetric. I mean, it's fantastic.
All right.
I mean,
yeah, it was fun. It's another one of those games, even like War of the Ring. Yeah, you want to learn the cards and you want to learn the powers.
Yeah.
You want to do.
The one thing I will say is be careful about who you play with, because no other game have I ever played where I have had so many people get mad playing it. I mean, because it is a confrontational game and people just get
Well, yeah, it's in the title. It's
yeah, for sure. I need to try this one. I've for years people have been telling me how good it is. I just have never gotten around to it.
No.
All right. Number one, Brandon.
Okay, number one is Modern Art, but I'm not going to talk about Modern Art. I'm going to give you a different number one.
Your honorable mention.
My what would have probably been my 6, and the game that probably should have won the Spiel last year. I enjoy the hell out of the Quest for El Dorado.
Yeah.
I love the deck building. I love the racing. I think it offers enough in there that it should have been considered a little more than it was. I don't know. But it's fun. And so there's my number 6/number one.
Gotcha. I'm going to cheat because I can. And I'm going to give 2 honorable mentions before I actually give my number one. My 2 honorable mentions are one nobody plays and one that everybody knows. One everybody knows is Tigers and Euphrates is an honorable mention for me. I like that game. I am terrible at it. I started a geek list years ago saying that was called Games I Love But Completely Suck At. And Tigers and Euphrates was the game that inspired that geek list because I probably played 50 games of it before I won for the very first time. And I only won that game because I was running a demo game of it at Gen Con with 3 people that had never played. And we ended early. That's how I managed to somehow win a game. I am so bad at this freaking game. I have no idea why. It's terrible. But I know it's a great game. I'm just wretched at it. The game that is my other honorable mention that nobody plays, and I don't know why it doesn't get more love because I think it's really cute, is Relationship Tightrope.
Great turn taker.
Yeah, I think it's really clever. It's a game that has basically 2 kinds of points, blue points and pink points, and your score is the difference between them, right? So, I mean, which is a scoring mechanic he's used in a lot of other places. I think it's really cute. I like the cute art. It's simple, fast. I think it's funny. It plays on tropes a little bit more than it needs to, maybe, but I think it's a cool game, and I'm glad I got it for dirt cheap back in the days when I used to haunt Tanga and buy stuff for like $3. So those are my 2 honorable mentions. But my number one game is Ra. I think Ra is my go-to auction game all the time. It's one of the games that when people want to learn about gaming and I want to introduce them to an auction game, Ra is always the first one I get. Because it is the one auction game I can think of that doesn't have a ton of math, that isn't mathy, that people that don't want to do math can play and enjoy auctions in an interesting way. It has the fun press your luck. I can't believe it. When people are trying not to draw a raw tile. It's got that one moment where some Yahoo has somehow survived till the end and there's still 4 spaces open on the raw track and he's just pulling tiles for days and everybody's just gnashing of teeth and pulling of hair. It's so good. I was so sad when it was like $100 and some bucks before it finally got reprinted. And I remember thinking, God, I'm going to end up popping for the stupid Uber Play, like ridiculously expensive version. And then it got reprinted and I was very happy.
And the new version is beautiful.
And it is beautiful. I agree. I have the Uber Play version because I ended up trading for a copy of it somewhere down the road so I went back and got the one that has the wooden suns because that's what I wanted. But I think this is another one that's a no-brainer in your collection. Everybody should have this.
I have it in mind.
So I have to give a shout. We didn't mention a couple of his sort of more popular games. Ingenious is one of probably his best-selling games of all time.
Yep.
And Shot and Totten / Battle Line, also wildly popular. And then Samurai and Samurai the card game.
Didn't Taj Mahal win awards too?
Yeah,
that was
Taj
another
Mahal
one.
won the Deutscher Spielpreis. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's won 4 Deutscher Spielpreises, 2 International Gamers Award, and 1 Spiel des Jahres. And then he had a special award for Lord of the Rings. Was one of the first co-op games, right?
Yeah, I believe so, yes.
Yep.
And just so we're clear, everything that you just said that we didn't talk about except Ingenious is on my list of stuff I don't like. So that's why like all of those games. I don't like Samurai. I don't like Battle Line. I don't like Taj Mahal. I have like all of those are the games that I'm like, nah, I'm cool if I never play those again. And I know that we have viewers that like all of those in varying.
Yeah, I throw Winter Circle in there if you like mean little race games. It's a lot of fun.
So here's the deal. In closing, I just want to point this out. You can say quantity over quality all you want, but we just gave you at least 12 really great games.
That if you don't, really great games. Or you're not counting mine.
No, I'm counting some. I'm counting yours too. We repeated a couple times.
Oh, we did.
No, I mean, here's the deal. You can if you go to BGG, search for him, and then sort by rank. You're not going to go wrong with the first 3 pages of games that come up.
Nope.
Right? Even if they're not necessarily for me, you're going to get really great games in there. I don't like Samurai and Battle Line, and Taj Mahal. Ingenious is okay, but I don't like those, but I can recognize that they're great games. So he has done some amazing stuff. Yeah. And High Society it's surprising none of us talked about that. That was my number 7, Chad. Yeah. That would have been right up there too. I just wanted to talk about Relationship Tightrope because I think it's one of those unloved games that's better than it gets a rep for. So, all right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to wrap this sucker up. Don't forget, it is the first Monday of the month. So After Dark is coming in the next, we'll start that around 10:30. So if you feel like staying up a little bit late, Chad and Brandon, I'll send you the link. We'll see who pops in. I have no idea. Worst case scenario, I'll do it as an AMA and I'll just yap with people. But Chris, did you ever send me that link so that way I can put it in the show notes, Chris?
No, I will. My apologies. Can I give a quick shout out to a series I'm doing this week?
I wish you would.
So I am publishing a series this week. I had 25 members of the Opinionated Gamers vote for 15 games each of what they consider modern classics from 1995 to 2015. We had 50 games that made the list. Punchboard Media did something similar. And here's the shout out and the relevance to tonight. 6 of the games are Reiner Knizia games. 6 of the top 50. He is on there more than any other designer. The second best designer representation was 3 games. So that shows you just how high quality of games that man has produced over the years.
Yep. And it's very, and like I said, you're not going to go wrong with any of his top stuff. That's awesome. And I trust that Mr. Ray will send me a link to whatever that list is too, so you can check that out. We'll throw that in the show notes.
It's just over on the Opinionated Gamers.
Yes, but I want him to send me. So is that opinionatedgamers.com?
It is.
Yep.
There you go. See, that was easy. Very good. All right. Good. Yep. Good plug. I like it. Brandon.
Blah, 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 blah. We'll be releasing. I'm not doing a big article series like Chris did because I'm not freaking nuts.
Yes, you are. Just your different flavor.
Yeah, so I'm just going to do a geek list on Friday when they hit their finals and he kind of closes everything up. I'm going to do a geek list of ours that we did, and we'll try to, so you'll be able to kind of compare ours to theirs. And there is some crossover. We're not quite as snobby and as old school as them, but there is some crossover in there.
The new kids on the block versus the old guys.
There you go.
And also Wednesday we have our Spiel des Jahres episode of the What Did You Play This Week coming up. We're doing a series on the Spiel des Jahres. Last week we started with the origins from 79 to 89. This week is from 1990 to 2000 because Chris made me go to 2000 because he wanted to weird me out with the whole thing. So that'll be on Wednesday. You'll be able to get that where we kind of cover. And I forgot what we start with in 1990. Damn it, Chris.
So while he's stalling and trying to remember stuff, I'm going to key off of this and say, don't forget, ladies and gentlemen, we were running a contest here on the Cubist right now through next week. If you email the Cubist podcast at gmail.com with your picks for what you think will be nominated for the Spiel des Jahres, we're going to get the most accurate pick, or if there's a tie randomly amongst the accurate picks.
Puzzle.
Yeah. Shh, don't give anybody hints. We're going to be giving away a copy of Hanabi and a copy of The Mind to one lucky winner. So make sure that the Cubist podcast at gmail.com. Email us your picks. Even if you aren't a big Spiel des Jahres guy, even if it's not your jam and you don't really know what you think is going to be nominated, go for it. What the hell? They've nominated stuff that we didn't know was coming many times in the past, right? We've missed.
Quackenblicker is going to be it's going to surprise everybody. I can't even say it correct.
Exactly. See? So there you go. And you know what? If you listen to What Did You Play This Week, I would be willing to wager that Brandon will blurt out some of the stuff that he thinks. And he's always way more knowledgeable about it than I am. So
I just follow Chris's lead and then just pick one or two different things.
On Friday is the annual article where we list all of our guesses over at the Opinionated Gamers.
See? So there you go.
The 14th is when they announce. So
yep, a week from today, which is why the contest is running through next week. So you have to get those in by the 13th. And yes, you are completely, I don't care if you go to opinionatedgamers.com and use their article as a crib sheet. And I don't care if you listen to What Did You Play This Week. I wish you would. Please go support all of the content creators and support us as well. All of the links for all the ways you can do that are at the bottom of this video. Thanks everybody for watching. We went a little bit long, but After Dark is coming in just a few minutes. So stay tuned. Get back to, I think I put the link for the After Dark video right underneath this one in the description already. So click there and we'll see you in a few minutes. In the meanwhile, for those of you not staying, have a great week of gaming and we will see you next time.
Annabeth told me to close by saying, that's it.
That's it. See ya. Bye.